Imagine a world where the algorithms that curate your social feed aren't merely entertainment curators but silent architects of global power shifts, where a single line of code could unravel economies overnight, and where the human mind, once the pinnacle of evolution, finds itself outpaced by silicon synapses that learn, adapt, and perhaps even dream in ways we can scarcely comprehend, leaving us to grapple with the ultimate riddle. In this digital coliseum, are we the gladiators or the spectators, destined to cheer as our own obsolescence unfolds? This is the electrifying panorama Yuval Noah Harari unveils, drawing us into a labyrinth of 21st-century dilemmas where technology, politics, and identity collide in a symphony of chaos and possibility, urging us to navigate with eyes wide open lest we lose our way in the fog of progress. As we embark on this expansive journey, prepare to question not just the world around you, but the very narratives that have shaped your understanding of reality, peeling back layers of assumption to reveal the raw, pulsating heart of our era. Let's immerse ourselves fully in this technological maelstrom, beginning with the inexorable ascent of artificial intelligence, a force that's not just automating tasks but redefining the essence of work, worth, and human potential itself. Cast your mind back to the agrarian societies of yore, where the rhythm of life was dictated by seasons and sweat, families toiling under the sun to harvest crops that sustained empires. Fast forward to today, and we're on the cusp of a revolution that makes the industrial age look like a gentle ripple in a pond, with steam engines giving way to neural networks that process information at speeds defying imagination. Harari conjures a scene straight out of a futuristic epic. Warehouses teeming with autonomous robots, like those deployed by Amazon in their vast fulfillment centers spanning continents, where mechanical arms pick and pack orders with unerring precision, reducing error rates to near zero and operating around the clock without the need for breaks, benefits, or even the faintest hint of fatigue. In 2023 alone, reports indicated that automation displaced over 400,000 jobs in the U.S. logistics sector, a trend accelerating as companies like Boston Dynamics unveil robots that navigate complex environments with eerie human-like agility, flipping packages or climbing stairs as if they were extensions of some collective mechanical consciousness. But Harari doesn't stop at the surface. He delves into the nuanced interplay between human ingenuity and machine efficiency, painting portraits of hybrid futures that tantalize and terrify in equal measure, forcing us to confront whether we're enhancing our capabilities or slowly surrendering them. Envision a courtroom where AI judges sift through legal precedents faster than any barrister, as seen in Estonia's pioneering experiments with robo-judges for small claims, resolving disputes in minutes rather than months, drawing on databases of millions of cases to deliver verdicts that are impartial, swift, and often more consistent than those clouded by human bias. Or consider the creative industries. AI tools like DALL-E generate artwork from textual prompts, collaborating with artists to produce masterpieces that blend human emotion with computational novelty. Think of a painter using Midjourney to iterate on concepts, sparking innovations that might never emerge from unaided inspiration, such as surreal landscapes that evolve in real time based on the artist's mood captured via webcam. Yet, the undercurrent of anxiety builds as Harari explores the skills gap. Soft skills like empathy and ethical reasoning may remain human domains for now, but even these are encroaching, with chatbots like Replica offering companionship that feels disarmingly real, trained on vast datasets of human interactions to simulate emotional depth, responding to heartbreak with words that soothe like a close friend, raising questions about the authenticity of connection in an age of programmed intimacy. This disruption extends beyond borders, rippling through global economies with the force of a tidal wave that reshapes coastlines and upends lives in its wake. In Africa, where subsistence farming sustains millions across vast savannas and fertile deltas, AI-driven precision agriculture, drones mapping soil health and optimizing irrigation with laser-guided accuracy, could boost yields by 30%, according to World Bank estimates, turning barren plots into bountiful harvests, but at the cost of sidelining traditional laborers who have passed down knowledge through generations. Harari illustrates this with a vivid narrative. A Kenyan farmer, once attuned to the land's whispers through the feel of soil between his fingers and the patterns of migrating birds, now watches as satellite-guided tractors till fields autonomously, wondering if his ancestral knowledge will fade into irrelevance like forgotten folklore, his children migrating to urban slums in search of new livelihoods. The suspense mounts. How do we bridge this chasm between progress and preservation? Harari examines retraining programs, like Singapore's Skills Future Initiative, which subsidizes lifelong learning with vouchers and courses tailored to individual needs, allowing workers to pivot from obsolete roles to emerging fields like data ethics or AI oversight, where humans monitor the machines to ensure fairness. He also probes universal basic services, providing free education, healthcare, and housing, as complements to UBI, drawing from experiments in Stockton, California, where cash transfers reduced poverty without diminishing work incentives, fostering entrepreneurship instead, with recipients starting small businesses that inject vitality into local economies. Yet, even as we adapt, Harari warns of a deeper existential threat: the erosion of human agency in a world where algorithms preempt our choices, anticipating desires before they fully form in our minds. Liberty, that sacred flame kindled by philosophers from Locke to Mill, now flickers under the shadow of big data's gaze, a surveillance that permeates every aspect of existence. Picture your morning routine in intricate detail. Your smart alarm wakes you based on sleep patterns analyzed overnight by sensors in your mattress, your coffee maker brews to your predicted preference drawn from weeks of usage data, and your news app serves stories tailored to your biases, creating a bubble that feels like freedom but is engineered confinement, subtly steering your worldview without a single overt command. Harari recounts real-world incursions. In the realm of finance, robo-advisors like Betterment manage portfolios with algorithms that outperform human fund managers in volatility-adjusted returns, as per Vanguard studies, but at the price of opacity. Who understands the black box decisions driving your retirement, those intricate calculations hidden behind layers of code? Diving into the philosophical depths, Harari unpacks the enigma of consciousness with the precision of a detective unraveling a mystery that has puzzled thinkers for millennia. He outlines the biochemical theory: emotions as cocktails of neurotransmitters, unique to carbon-based life, implying AI might simulate love but never experience it, much like a colorblind person describing red based on descriptions alone, forever barred from the visceral sensation. Then, the computational view: if mind arises from patterns, as in Gödel's theorems on self-reference that challenge the limits of logic, machines could surpass us, evolving qualia, subjective experiences that dwarf our own, perhaps feeling colors we can't imagine or processing emotions in multidimensional spectra. Finally, the illusionist perspective, echoed in Daniel Dennett's work, posits free will as a useful fiction, supported by Libet's experiments showing brain activity preceding conscious intent by milliseconds, suggesting our decisions are after-the-fact rationalizations of subconscious processes. Harari brings this abstraction to life. That gut feeling guiding your vote? It's a symphony of neural firings influenced by ads micro-targeted via your browsing history, as exposed in the Netflix documentary The Social Dilemma, where former tech execs confess to designing addictive loops that hijack dopamine pathways, turning platforms into digital casinos where attention is the jackpot. The plot thickens with the specter of data monopolies, where corporations like Meta and Alphabet harvest our digital exhaust, like shares, searches, to build profiles more intimate than any diary, predicting behaviors with uncanny accuracy. In a chilling example, Harari describes how health insurers could deny coverage based on wearable data predicting future illnesses, analyzing steps, heart rates, and even stress levels to forecast risks, or employers screen candidates via AI, analyzing facial microexpressions in video interviews, as trialed by HireView, detecting lies or enthusiasm through subtle twitches invisible to the naked eye. This concentration of power evokes Orwellian nightmares of total control, but Harari counters with calls for antitrust reforms, inspired by the EU's Digital Markets Act, which mandates data portability and curbs gatekeeping, allowing users to migrate their information seamlessly. He poses a riveting question: can we democratize data? Perhaps through blockchain-led cooperatives where individuals own and monetize their information, turning the tide from exploitation to empowerment, creating a marketplace where personal data becomes a personal asset rather than corporate plunder? Equality, the noble pursuit that fueled revolutions from 1789 to the Arab Spring, now teeters on the brink as biotechnology promises godlike upgrades for the privileged few, potentially fracturing society into biological haves and have-nots. Harari sketches a stratified tomorrow, the ultra-rich editing their offspring's genomes for enhanced cognition, using tools like base editing to eliminate hereditary flaws and insert advantages, while the underclass contends with unaltered vulnerabilities to disease and aging. Real advancements underscore this. In 2018, He Jiankhui's CRISPR babies in China sparked ethical firestorms, highlighting how such tech could exacerbate divides, with edited children potentially enjoying IQ boosts or immunity to ailments that plague others. Globally, wealth disparities are stark. The top 10% control 76% of assets, per Credit Suisse reports, and AI amplifies this by automating low-wage jobs first, as seen in fast food chains like McDonald's deploying order kiosks, displacing cashiers who then face precarious gig work in an economy that values code over labor. To humanize the abstract, Harari weaves tales of potential futures. A child born in a Mumbai slum, genetically predisposed to average intelligence amidst pollution and hardship, competing against Silicon Valley scions augmented for genius-level IQs, their lifespans extended via telomerase therapies that add decades of vitality, allowing them to accumulate even more wealth and influence. This biological apartheid could ignite social unrest, riots in streets where the unenhanced demand access to the tools of transcendence. But Harari explores countermeasures like international bioethics treaties, akin to the Geneva Conventions that regulate warfare, banning non-therapeutic enhancements to prevent a genetic arms race. He draws on economists like Thomas Piketty, advocating wealth taxes to fund universal access, transforming inequality from a powder keg to a catalyst for shared prosperity, where public clinics offer editing for all, leveling the playing field. Yet, the moral maze deepens. If enhancements cure disabilities, denying them seems cruel, condemning the afflicted to unnecessary suffering. Harari invites us to weigh compassion against fairness in this ethical tightrope walk, pondering if true equality means uplifting everyone or capping the peaks. Amid these seismic shifts, community bonds fray like worn threads in a tapestry, replaced by the cold glow of screens that promise connection but deliver isolation, a paradox that leaves souls adrift in a sea of pixels. Harari paints intimate portraits. Couples on dates, eyes glued to phones rather than each other, scrolling through endless feeds while conversation stagnates. As studies from Pew Research reveal, 28% of Americans feel lonelier despite hyperconnectivity, their relationships reduced to emojis and likes. Biometric intrusions escalate this. Future implants, like Neuralink's brain-computer interfaces currently in trials, could read thoughts directly, enabling mind-to-mind communication that feels telepathic but also unprecedented surveillance, where every fleeting idea is logged and analyzed. Imagine a boss monitoring your focus levels in real time during meetings, or governments preempting dissent by detecting subversive neural patterns before they manifest in action. Scenarios Harari links to China's expanding facial recognition networks, which track 1.4 billion citizens with chilling efficiency, assigning scores that dictate access to services and freedoms. Paradoxically, this fragmentation accompanies a historic unification, as humanity coalesces into a singular civilization sharing universal norms that transcend ancient divides. Harari illustrates, from the bustling markets of Lagos, where traders haggle over goods shipped from across oceans, to the skyscrapers of Shanghai pulsing with global finance, people adhere to international standards in trade, health, and rights, as embodied in the Paris Agreement's global climate pledges that bind nations in a common fight against warming. Yet, our narratives fixate on fractures. Hollywood churns out spy thrillers about Russian hackers infiltrating systems, ignoring collaborative triumphs like the International Space Station, where astronauts from rival powers float side by side in zero gravity. Why this bias toward conflict? Harari delves into evolutionary psychology. Threats from the other sharpen survival instincts in tribal times, but in a borderless world connected by fiber optics, it fosters unnecessary enmity, distracting from synergies. He cites the World Health Organization's pandemic responses as models of unity, where vaccine sharing, though imperfect amid hoarding controversies, saved millions by pooling resources and knowledge across continents. Nationalism, that double-edged sword of pride and prejudice, demands reevaluation in Harari's framework, as it can either nurture harmless loyalty or fester into dangerous exclusion. Wholesome variants celebrate cultural heritage, festivals like Brazil's Carnival fostering joy without aggression, with rhythms and colors uniting diverse crowds in ecstatic harmony. But toxic strains breed supremacy, dismissing global imperatives as foreign impositions. Climate denialism exemplifies this myopia. Despite NASA data showing 1.1 degrees Celsius warming since 1880, with projections of 4 degrees Celsius by 2100 triggering mass extinctions and refugee crises. Nationalists prioritize short-term gains like fossil fuel jobs over long-term survival. Harari counters with innovative vignettes. Vertical farms in Singapore producing greens hydroponically in towering structures, slashing water use by 95% and localizing food production, or carbon capture tech from Climeworks pulling CO2 from air with giant fans, scalable to gigaton levels and turning emissions into stone for construction. The narrative pulses with urgency, confronting the triumvirate of threats, nuclear proliferation, with 13,000 warheads worldwide. Percipri estimates poised like Damocles swords. Biodiversity loss, as 1 million species face extinction according to IPBES reports, unraveling ecosystems we depend on. And tech upheaval that could render billions obsolete, requires transcending borders, perhaps through strengthened UN mechanisms or citizen assemblies that democratize decision-making on a planetary scale. Religion, an ancient beacon in turbulent times, now flickers uncertainly, adept at crafting identities, but clumsy with modern quandaries that demand empirical rigor over faith. Harari dissects its roles. In technical arenas, faiths offer no blueprints for quantum computing or fusion energy, yielding to engineers who tinker with particles and code. In policy, dogmatic stances on abortion or economics clash with evidence-based governance, often leading to gridlock in legislatures. Identity, however, thrives. Rituals like Ramadan's communal fasts forge unbreakable bonds, families gathering at iftar to share meals and stories under starry skies, but often at the expense of outsiders, as in Myanmar's Rohingya persecutions fueled by Buddhist nationalism that twists compassion into exclusion. Historical schisms abound. The Protestant Reformation splintered Christianity over interpretations of grace and scripture, mirroring today's Sunni-Shia divides that prolong Middle Eastern conflicts, with proxy wars in Yemen and Syria claiming countless lives over doctrinal nuances. Harari probes deeper. Religions amplify narcissism of small differences. Per Freud, where trivial variances, like the exact wording of a prayer, spark outsized hatreds, distracting from pragmatic solutions like water-sharing accords in the Jordan Valley that could quench thirsts and douse flames of rivalry. Immigration emerges as a flashpoint, not merely economic but cultural, where fears of dilution clash with humanitarian imperatives in a world of porous borders. Harari proposes a nuanced compact. Host societies absorb newcomers without discrimination, offering pathways to citizenship. Migrants commit to liberal values like free speech and equality, learning languages and customs, and mutual respect yields integration over generations. Thresholds are key. Germany's 2015 intake of 1 million refugees enriched diversity with new cuisines and innovations but strained services, per Merkel-era analyses, leading to policy tweaks like accelerated asylum processing. Dilemmas for progressives abound. Welcoming migrants from patriarchal regimes risks importing attitudes antithetical to LGBTQ+ rights, as debated in Scandinavian forums where burqa bans spark heated discussions on freedom versus security. Harari highlights successes like Australia's multicultural mosaic, where targeted programs accelerate language acquisition and employment, turning potential divides into strengths, with immigrant entrepreneurs revitalizing neighborhoods and economies. Terrorism, that insidious specter, manipulates psyches more than bodies, inflating threats to provoke self-destructive responses that echo far beyond the initial blast. Statistically dwarfed by mundane killers, heart disease claims 18 million annually versus terrorism's thousands, per WHO figures. Yet it dominates discourse, headlines screaming of plots while ignoring everyday perils. Harari likens it to a puppet master pulling strings from the shadows. September 11th's 3,000 deaths spurred wars costing trillions and millions more lives. A multiplier effect terrorists crave to recruit and radicalize. Strategies for resilience include bolstering intelligence fusion, as in Five Eyes alliances sharing data across oceans. Governmental restraint, avoiding knee-jerk invasions that create power vacuums, and media responsibility, prioritizing context over clicks to demystify rather than amplify fear. Emerging horrors like drone swarms coordinating attacks autonomously or engineered viruses add layers. A CRISPR-altered pathogen could evade vaccines and spread undetected, demanding global biosecurity pacts that monitor labs and share antidotes preemptively. War, once a path to glory and gain that built empires from Rome to Britain, has morphed into a fool's errand in an interconnected age where victories are Pyrrhic at best. Harari traces its decline. Pre-1945, conquests built empires by seizing resources. Post-Hiroshima, nukes enforce mad, mutually assured destruction. A fragile balance of terror, while economic interdependence makes aggression suicidal. Invading a trade partner tanks your own markets as supply chains snap. Examples litter history. Napoleon's Russian campaign bankrupted France amid frozen tundras. More recently, the US's Afghan quagmire drained $2 trillion without strategic wins, leaving a Taliban resurgence. Cyber dimensions innovate destruction. Ransomware attacks like Colonial Pipeline's 2021 shutdown, halting fuel across the East Coast, foreshadow wars waged via code, crippling infrastructures invisibly without boots on the ground. Peace persists through enlightened self-interest, Harari posits, but vigilance against irrational leaders, those swayed by ego or ideology, remains paramount to prevent miscalculations that could escalate to apocalypse. Humility serves as an antidote to arrogance, urging cultures to disentangle themselves from the universe's stage. As an Israeli historian, Harari critiques Zionist narratives that overemphasize Jewish history in global timelines, paralleling how Americans view their revolution as humanity's turning point while ignoring contemporaneous events like China's Qing dynasty expansions that reshaped Asia. Shadows lurk in every ethos. Islam's emphasis on charity masks historical conquests under caliphates. Liberalism's freedom rhetoric justified imperialism in colonies plundered for resources. Cultivating perspective, through travel that immerses in foreign customs. Diverse reading that spans voices from all continents. Fosters empathy, essential for global harmony where understanding replaces suspicion. Secularism, unburdened by dogma, champions evidence and ethics, birthing marvels like the Universal Declaration of Human Rights that enshrines dignity for all. Its tenets, truth via falsifiability in labs and debates, power checked by accountability through elections and courts, contrast with theistic absolutes that brook no doubt, yet it grapples with relativism's voids where morals seem adrift. Harari envisions a secular covenant. Compassion as the core metric, reducing suffering universally, as in effective altruism movements quantifying charity impacts to direct aid where it saves the most lives, from mosquito nets in Africa to research on existential risks. In an era of disillusionment, post-truth peddlers thrive on misinformation floods, but Harari equips us with tools. Interrogate sources rigorously, as in fact-checking sites like Snopes debunking viral hoaxes. Embrace uncertainty, avoiding black and white fallacies that polarize debates. Literature evolves. Two sci-fi authors like Neil Stephenson in Snow Crash foresee metaverses as virtual frontiers, preparing us for virtual economies better than Dickens' social critiques of Victorian inequities, imagining worlds where avatars trade digital assets. The divine, a human fabrication born from ancient fears and wonders, struggles with theodicy. Why allow holocausts or pandemics if omnipotent and benevolent? Harari favors Job's humility, accept mystery amid suffering, but modern minds demand rationality, shifting allegiance to humanistic morals rooted in empathy, predating scriptures and evolving through philosophy to guide ethics without celestial oversight. Education must reinvent itself for flux. Prioritize metacognition over memorization, teaching kids to unlearn and relearn in a world where facts change overnight. Harari imagines classrooms as adaptability labs, using gamified simulations to build emotional quotient, drawing from Finland's play-based curricula that outperform rote systems in PISA scores, nurturing curious minds ready for ambiguity. Meditation anchors the self amid storms. Harari's decade-long Vipassana practice reveals the mind's fictions, observing sensations without attachment, a technique backed by neuroscience showing reduced amygdala activity for lower stress, offering clarity in chaos like a lighthouse in fog. As this sprawling saga nears its zenith, Harari crystallizes the imperative. Gaze inward to master outward tempests, questioning certainties while forging alliances against shared foes. The quintessence? Self-awareness fuels collective wisdom, empowering us to author a narrative where technology serves humanity, not subjugates it. Now, in the quiet after the storm, ask yourself, what verse will you contribute to this eternal epic? Your reflections today may illuminate paths for generations. Seize the pen and write boldly.